Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into my show, William Wallace for America. I got to tell you, in my travels, I get the opportunity to meet a lot of people. I meet some political guys, I meet some smart guys, I meet some funny guys, and sometimes I meet somebody who's political, who's smart, and funny. And that describes Mike Loftus, who's with me today. How are you doing today, Mike?
I'm thrilled. I'm in a good place emotionally, so that's key. That's key. I think I'm emotionally prepared for the journey that is the William Wallace show.
And let me tell you, and you are right, it's spot on. It is a journey. I mean, if we weren't traveling a journey, who knows? We might be in a basement someplace hanging out with Joe Biden.
That's right. And this isn't that's a little scary. Like we're supposed to believe that he's running for president, but like he's not really doing anything. He's not really campaigning. So that's a
You,
little disturbing.
I mean, look, the guy that they keep putting in all these indictments and the DAs, he's out campaigning harder than the other guy.
Yes. Yes. It's almost like they don't want him out there campaigning, so they do the indictments and stuff. And then also you're not watching the whistleblower testimony. That was crazy today. That was crazy.
When you see this, I heard how much they're saying Joe Biden or the Bidens could owe in taxes that's being hidden by the IRS or covered up by the IRS. But with all this going on, everybody keeps blaming that bag of cocaine on Hunter Biden. I'm beginning to wonder if it's not old Joe snorting the stuff.
When you saw him, he was in the Oval Office the other day. Yeah, he was just nodding off. I'm like, somebody get him a rail. Somebody give Joe a bump. He needs to.
And that keeps joking about how he sniffs kids. You gotta wonder. Is he just used to sniffing that much?
Right? He's been checking those kids. He's been checking their hair and backs for cocaine.
Yes, is that a line of coke or is it snot? I know it's we laugh to keep from crying because the reality is if we really think about what's going on without joking about it, without injecting some humor in it, we'd all be crying right now.
or yes, crying, or we'd be out in the streets, which it's getting bad out there. The temperature in America is just rising, 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 and I'm glad that everybody's being smart. Nobody's doing anything wacky. But yeah, when you see the Secret Service play this game of make believe, like we have no idea. That could have been anybody's white mystery powder. Like we're supposed to believe that the Secret Service can't figure out whose coke that was. And then when you find out like the FBI and the CIA, you look at the Durham report, and they never should have opened up the Russia collusion thing at all. And so you're looking at these intelligence communities, these agencies who appear to be completely corrupt. And now you got the DOJ going after Trump, multiple arrests, multiple indictments. You're just like, we have a really big problem in this country. Like really, like everything should have stopped after the Durham report came out. To me, that's like, so that there was no Trump-Russia collusion. We found that out with Mueller. But then when the Durham report confirms it and makes it worse, and like, oh, Comey knew, Clapper knew, Obama knew, Biden knew, everybody knew, and they pursued it anyway. That's when you have to go, okay, all these agents you have to get rid of them. You have to get rid of all these agencies.
One of the things that I keep saying is an attack on freedom is how deep the bureaucracies are. And the previous president and the people who are in tune with not only the previous president, I'll say the current president in a lot of ways. You see, I walk that fence because there's people who believe different things, but of course, the way I like to put it is, when you look at how much is being hidden, from us and how many people are awake, and and Donald Trump used to refer to it as the swamp. And yeah. I always say, you hear my co-host in the background, by the way. Donald Trump referred to it as a swamp, and a lot of
Yeah.
people refer to it as the swamp. I just tell people, look, our bureaucracy agencies have gotten so deep, they are the swamp. And that is where freedom is the most under attack because they've gone amok. You get an agency that's so big, you're going to have some corruption in it. And that's where we gotta, all be mindful and watchful and putting out the facts out there. Where do
Yeah.
you think that freedom is most under attack?
Well, it really seems to be from every angle now, but I'll just go with the big ones, which is freedom of speech. And that's really, I mean, thank goodness for Elon Musk and Twitter. But if you see how the White House and the FBI was working hand in glove with Facebook and Twitter
Mm-hmm.
and Instagram and these other social media apps just during COVID, just during COVID. And then before that, you couldn't question the election.
No,
You
exactly.
couldn't. So that's a really, really bad one. And then like two things are happening at the same time. Uh, First of all, you have this attack on freedom of speech. So we're all like kind of being corralled.
Right.
Like, don't say this on the internet. You'll get canceled. Don't even
Exactly.
mention this. Don't even talk about this. So then the people who do think like, wow, none of this feels right.
Mm-hmm.
None of it just feels right in my
Right.
gut. They feel lonely and they're like, I guess I'm the only one. Maybe I'm the only one. So it's marginalizing people. And then when you go to what's being taught to the kids in school today with the diversity and equity,
Oh yeah.
inclusion, and the gender fluid and all this stuff, you only need so many years of doing that with a bunch of kids and you've captured an entire generation.
I have some friends of mine that homeschool their children,
Yeah.
and part of the reason was when their oldest was it was like middle school, whatever. He was asked to write a paper on how black people are, how it's not easy, how hard it is for a black person to vote, or how there's still discrimination in the election process for black people, and they were required to name 4 ways. And the student, the boy, the child of my friend said he couldn't come up with more than one way, maybe. And they said, if you don't come up with 4 ways, you're going to get an F. So he had to come up with 4 ways, or he was going to get an F. And mind you, now that minorities were allowed to vote before, legally vote before women.
Yeah.
So when we like you said, when we learn, put these things in our education system, and you combine that with the First Amendment, I can see exactly what you're saying, how much freedom of speech is under attack. Now, you make your living as a comedian, correct?
Yes. Yes.
And so as a comedian, how are you feeling the effects of the First Amendment? I mean, of course, we hear the stories, but give us some firsthand information on that.
Well, I'm very fortunate, and one of the great things about being a comedian and touring around the country quite a bit. I was writing on television shows, and then when the TV show would go on hiatus, I'd go out on the road and do stand up. So I've always had one foot in Hollywood and then one foot on the stage of comedy clubs. But you see things, it's like the canary in the coal mine. Like what are people laughing at? What are they not laughing at? What gets a weird reaction? And I remember, like, this has got to be like 2002. I was performing at a college, and I did this joke about the lady in the cafeteria. It was just a very innocuous, blah blah joke. Hey, it's good to be here. And the woman in the cafeteria had this super thick German accent, and she's like, "What would you like for lunch?" And she was very like, so of course I'm like, "Hey, that
Bratwurst.
right?" I'm like, boy, the cafeteria lady, she's not joking around at all, is she? She's like, "What would you like for lunch? Get on the train." And I had, and like everybody
You
laughed.
need a shower.
I didn't go that far. I didn't go that far.
Yeah.
But like I had a student who was at the show wrote a letter to the dean to complain about me and my insensitivity and to remind me that not every German person is a Nazi I'm using stereotypes, and like they wanted
Wow.
me to write a letter of apology. They wanted
Right.
me to write, and I'm like, nope, nope. I'm
No.
not going back to colleges. I'm not, and like,
Yeah.
so it's been building for a while. So I really, they've got like one generation that's already locked up, and now with this next generation of kids, they're going for the transgender.
Yeah.
If your skin color is like this, you're a good person or a bad person. Gender fluidity. It's really, it's like, if someone does have plans for like what they're real for world
Right.
domination, they're going pedal to the metal now. They really have to.
Exactly.
They have to wrap it up fast, because too many people are waking up and going, this doesn't make any sense.
Right.
You know.
No, you're exactly right. Just like Sebastian Gorka was on my show a couple months ago, and it's just like he said, that, well, look,
Name dropper. I'm Sebastian Gorka. Was he
Gorka.
experiencing any back pains while he was on the show?
No, he did, but he told me why he wasn't experiencing any back pains.
Because of his medication. The medication.
Well, the reason I said that his name is because I wanted to give him credit for what he said. Is that is one of the things he's on the move on, is how deep in our school board system, that they're going after our kids. That's where they're attacking our kids, and that's where we have to get the most active is in our school boards, because our school boards is where our schools are where they're indoctrinating children. And our school boards aren't listening to us. And if we don't get involved, they're going to, institute things and curriculums in our schools that are going, like to your point, are going to make it to where, in another generation, our children are going to think they're going to hate themselves, because, the average kid or the majority or the minority, where they are not going to like themselves because of their skin color, instead of being taught in school that, we are what we are because God made us this way.
Yes.
Accept it and learn to accept, not because you can't accept others if you don't accept yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what the CRT doesn't teach. If it teaches us to be guilty for who we are, then we're never going to be able to accept somebody else for who they are. And that's what is going to backfire on our community. So you're making some excellent points, Mike. I appreciate that.
Every once in a while.
Every once in a while. I won't drop any more names except. Well, look in the future, I might drop hey, I had Michael Loftus on my show, I mean,
there you go. That's great. Someday I want that. I want you to have Sebastian Gorka back on your show and like, oh, I was talking to Michael Loftus, and you go, really?
Really? Who's Michael Loftus?
Outstanding guest.
I mean, look, he'll be honored to know that he was on the William Wallace Mike Loftus show, right?
Yeah. Sebastian Gorka. I like that guy. He's cool. I ran into him at CPAC. He's aces. I like.
And he's tall. I mean, like he's like a whole head over me. I mean, he's like a whole foot over me. It's amazing.
He's like what Peter Dinklage would have been if they would have left him in the oven a little bit longer. He's like.
It's funny. You'll get me laughing so much. And now I'm starting to work up a sweat. It's getting.
I'm Sebastian Gorka, or as they call me in Hollywood, the Big Dink. I'm the Big Dinklage.
Is it or is he the Big Dinklage, or is he the missing link? Because I mean, it's 6'6" or 7 or whatever it is. You just never know.
It's weird. Like you don't. It's like you'll see basketball players on TV, and you're like, they're just like in street clothes, where you're like, oh, that's a big guy. I bet that guy's really tall. You look at Sebastian Gorka, you'd see him on Fox News, you'd see him doing these media hits, and you're like, oh, that's a regular guy. And then you see him in person, and you're like, oh my Lord. Because
when he's on the news stations, I think they give him the little kiddie chair and sit him at the kiddie table, so that way. It's like that picture of equity versus equality.
Yeah.
Where there's three different tiers of chairs, and they're all three different heights. But over the fence, they're all the same height. So I think with him, they have to put him in there.
Yeah.
So what's been some of your favorite piece of work? When people go to your site, I mean, that you've got some really interesting content. I absolutely love it. I was scrolling through some of your shows, some of your podcasts, and everything like
Yeah.
that. You're really an avid content creator here. I like the one that you did. I don't know what year you did that. There's three guys at a barbecue, and you come up and you actually have your tin foil inside your hat.
Yeah. Well, that's from the sketch comedy show that I do called That Show Tonight.
Yes.
And everybody can go to thatshowtonight.com. They can see a bunch of material, see a bunch of the skits, and they can join up. And I encourage everybody to join up because we do these shows and it's like we're making fun of the powers that be. We're making fun of the woke idiots. We're making fun of all of these subjects like no one's making fun of on television anymore. So it's just like shooting fish in a barrel. And it's like, in terms of favorites, it's always going to be like the most recent one. Like on this last show that we did a skit about the people on the submarine going down.
Yeah, the distraction, right? and I haven't watched that one yet. I think you have like what happening during the Titanic sub distraction.
Oh, yeah, that's just an article. The skit is available at thatshowtonight.com. But it's like we're all on the sub and we're like, okay, so we're gonna go down and see the Titanic. This is great. This is a big day for me.
Yeah.
Because as soon as we get back from seeing the Titanic, I have to go testify against the Clintons because I saw some stuff that was going. Whoa, I got a little water on my side, a little wet over here.
Yeah, it's like yeah. I'm gonna have to watch that one because what I like about this, what you're doing there is like you get the Babylon Bee. They haven't been on my show, by the way.
Right.
They have not been on my show. Just when you want to drop another name and you can't, that moment,
Well,
anyway, but what you're doing though, you're taking a step further. You're actually putting the whole skit together, and that takes some time. That takes a lot. That's a lot of work.
Well, it's great. Like I had like an epiphany. I had a pivotal moment in my career in Hollywood right after Trump got elected, where it became very obvious to me with my political beliefs, no matter how nice I am, no matter
Right.
how funny I am, no matter how wonderful I am or the project, there's no future in Hollywood. There's
Right.
no, they will systematically get rid of everybody who even remotely leans to the right. So that's when a couple years ago, some friends and I got together and we like, let's do a live show. It'll be like Saturday Night Live. It'll be music and skits and stand up. And it's That Show Tonight, and we've just been having an absolute blast for it. And then I'm also doing stuff, for my website. There's Hunter Biden. I put on the red scarf and the jean jacket and just, yo, you guys.
You didn't do one of those naked. You didn't do one of those naked videos, did you? Because
I have, but those aren't available for the public yet.
Because Marjorie Taylor Greene, did you see her hold the picture up today?
I love
the naked picture of Hunter Biden. I mean,
Yes. Yeah, it's like what I love it when the parents go to the school board meetings too, and they start reading out of the books about what the kids are reading.
Right.
So then Timmy thought, oh, I'm going to put my mouth on that kid. And then the school board is like, oh, no. I'm like, wait, I can't say it here, but you want my kid to read it?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's just it. They call that First Amendment suppression. I'm like, no, so I'm in Louisiana, and I don't know if you heard or not. We just had our Louisiana. Oh, you're reminding me of something. So sorry for the interruption, but we just had an override session yesterday because we overrode the governor's veto that for a bill that will not allow parents or doctors to chemically or surgically alter children's gender. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, one of the other bills that got vetoed that did not get overridden was one that said in a library, pornographic or like the material you're referring to, that a children should not have access to without parental permission. And that got not only killed and vetoed, but not even brought back up. And you go, wait a minute, we're not doing anything different than we haven't done throughout society. Children can't buy tobacco until they're 18, or
Right.
cigarette, or until they're 21. Children can't go into a strip club or whatever the case may be.
And so the question is, and it's kind of a rhetorical question, is like, why is this so important for the people who are fighting for it? Like, if you talk to any sane adult and you go, I think we should probably keep sex stuff away from little kids.
Right.
Every sane adult will go, yeah, that's a
Absolutely.
good
Great
idea.
yeah.
But somewhere, someone is like, no, we have to do this.
It's
And
hateful.
they twist your words and they twist your message. And it's like, okay, so I don't think we should have drag performances in schools and for little kids. I don't think we should have drag shows for little kids. And then suddenly everybody starts telling you it's an attack on drag people. You hate the people. And it's like, no,
you hate humans.
I don't care what adults do.
Right.
You live your life. Keep it away from the kids, though.
Exactly. As a society, we've got to have that threshold of 18 years old. And also, to your point, you're making some great points, and I love that, which is why people need to go check out your website.
Yes.
The loftusparty.com.
Yes.
But to your point, though, like I was talking to somebody who yesterday at the Capitol who was there to fight the bill being overridden, right? And they said, and I just said they, I'm not trying to use a pronoun that they gave me. I'm just referring to them generically as they, because I don't know if it was a guy, a girl, or whatever it was. But
Sure.
they said to me, because I'm not, look, and like you, I'm not going to issue an apology. They misgendered me. William Wallace misgendered me. That's all right. Nobody calls me by my pronouns, which are gorgeous and wealthy. But either way, this trans person said that there's nobody in Louisiana that's currently being surgically or chemically transitioned. And I said, well, then why are you all fighting to keep, to keep this? And they said, well, because for future trans people. And I said, well, what about? No, right? I'm not in that category. I can promise you that. And I said, well, then shouldn't we protect the kids who, are being coerced, or the ones that, that need protection? Because it sounds to me like if there's 0 on one side and there's 0 on the other side, that maybe we shouldn't worry about what percentage of zeros are going to be affected, and worry about what percentage of children in the future will be affected if we don't bring this firewall into this scenario. We brought it into all the other scenarios. I mean, you can't vote until you're 20, till you're 18 years old. I mean, so why should you,
It's the lamest argument ever, and the left does love to they love to have these arguments over hypothetical children. And here they go. You go full liberal. I believe that children are our future, and if the life of one child,
right?
If we give up on one, and then they go, oh, if we can't teach this in school, then that one child might feel bad about themselves, and then they might go on to try to do harm to their own self down the road. So we're supposed to let every kid be exposed to freaking filth from coast to coast because one kid might feel bad. Meanwhile, you've got fentanyl pouring across the border.
Exactly.
And real children dying in record numbers, and they're not doing shit.
Wait, now you know what, Michael? You just solved the abortion issue. You just solved the pro-life, pro-choice issue. Now what we need to start promoting is saying, an abortion might take the life of one trans kid.
Yes. that clump of cells.
Yeah. Might have been
of cells hasn't told you our pronouns yet.
Maybe that's
they them.
Exactly. Maybe that clump of cells identifies as a transhuman.
we need We need really teeny tiny copies of some porn
Yeah,
and put that in there
put it in
so the
there.
kid's in the womb and he can read it.
They're reading it and getting indoctrinated at an earlier age. That's a great idea.
So the little tiny baby can learn about anal sex. Wow, I'm so close.
Yes, exactly. That little clump of cells, you don't want to take like I said, you could say, look, do you really want to take the life of that clump of cells? They might be reading the material that's in the libraries, and you're going to take that opportunity away from them?
Right?
I mean, are you a hater?
Why are you banning books in the uterus?
Yes.
What kind of Nazi are you that you won't allow us this reading material in utero?
That's another great thing. Say, look, we're not trying to prevent you from having an abortion. We just want to put this reading material in the womb for that clump of cells because they might identify.
I tell you, I'm not even kidding. But if you were gonna put a teeny tiny Bible in there, they would fight it.
Oh, yeah. That's the pro-life side. They're like, look, you all are banned from putting little tiny pornographic material in there, but we have a right to put this teeny tiny Bible in there. The next thing you know, the ultrasound, you see the little embryo thumping a Bible, thumping a little Bible.
having a little
Yeah.
smack in the Bible. And verily, Moses and the Jews wandered through the desert, and he's
and then there was it wasn't the Jews wandering through the desert. It was all the clumps of cells because that's all they know. You see, so
he's got red corpuscles and he's having a whole evangelical. The Spirit of the Lord sells.
Well, no, you see, I can tell you're not from the South, though.
Right?
Yeah, because in the South, we say Jesus. That's the right way to say it in the South. So that's how I know that you're from either the North or the West Coast.
Ohio guy. I grew up in Ohio.
Are you serious? I have relatives in Akron, and I'm from Louisville.
Louisville. That's I love that town. That's one of the first towns I did. I think that was like the second week of professional stand-up where I went to Louisville, Kentucky. I did stand-up and I was paid. I was paid to tell jokes. It was a very important week.
You want to hear a secret that I don't tell? I mean, I tell people in private. This will be the first time I've said it on a show. Is I used to do stand-up a long time ago.
Really?
Yeah, I did stand up for a few years. After I've got a clean bit and I had my other bit, and so I'll have to give you some of that divorce humor.
What club did you work?
I didn't work any particular club, just in the South. I had I started out on open mic nights, and then after that, I was lucky. There was a couple I'll say professional comedians down here, but they weren't any big names. Actually, do you know Mutzi? Mutzi's kind of a big name. Mutzi's got kind of a, he's kind of I say he's a big name, but I used to open up for him a little bit down here, and there's some other guys down here, and they're more regional comedians than national comedians.
Yeah,
and everything, and so I did I did some little stand up.
I was always jealous of those dudes. Like this guy, James Gregory, was really big back in the day. There was another guy whose stage name was Killer Bees. And it's like they would just like hang out in the South.
Yeah.
They would just play. And I'm like, that just seemed ideal, man.
Yeah. I mean, like you're performing on beach clubs and down there. And in the South is where all of the pro-life people live. So you always have to have a good Bible joke, and you can't joke about the clump of cells, and you definitely can't talk about,
it's all good.
I've noticed you've also got a podcast here about more evidence for the Biden corruption pile. It's getting bigger. Is that you said the corruption pile is getting bigger? Are you referring to the pile of cocaine on the Resolute desk in the Oval Office?
It's just amassing because you've got, first of all, the Hunter Biden laptop and all of the evidence there. And you think that would have been a showstopper once Tucker Carlson had Tony Bobulinski on.
Right.
You have the Hunter Biden laptop, then you've got an eyewitness to the events. He's like, I'm Tony Bobulinski. I was in business with these guys. Here's pictures. Here's the text message. So that's a huge hunk of evidence. And now you've got the IRS whistleblowers coming forward. And it's just, and then you've also got a Ukrainian guy who worked at the Burisma Energy, who's got phone calls that he's recorded. So it's amazing. And Trump said it the other day. It's like, they impeached me for a phone call.
Right. Exactly.
And like, it's a mountain. It's a mountain of, it's at least worth investigating. Like, why is there not a special counsel? I mean, they've got receipts. They know that millions of dollars came through.
After a Clinton administration, after an Obama administration, and after a Biden administration, and look, and for Trump, you know, the only thing that one of Trump's mistakes, I'm saying one, meaning there's a many of them. I just mean like, you know, that one of the mistakes that he made was that he kept so many people in bureaucracy that he felt were either friends or would be loyalist or whatever. But because they've packed those levels of bureaucracy so deep and so multi-layered down below, you know, now it's like it's almost like it's almost like, you know, different levels of armor. You know, you've got like, you know, 20, 30 levels of armor, you know, shielding these guys. And that's how they get away with it, because their bureaucracy is so deep and so thick. It's not even a swamp. You know, a swamp is actually an ecosystem that's very gorgeous. You know, I live in Louisiana. I see the swamp, right? Yeah. You know, I can go a couple blocks away and see a swamp and go, wow, this is really a beautiful place. It's not the swamp. It's, you know, it's these deep bureaucracies are a cesspool.
Yes.
And they smell like one. And so that's, to your point, that's what's happening. They've got this, they're so entrenched that you can't get anybody for being, you know, you can't get anybody for the guilt when you got the evidence in a pile sitting on the Oval Office.
Right. And it's crazy. Then you call up your buddy who, like, you're Joe Biden. You've been in politics since like 1972. You've worked with all these people. And you're like, there's a bunch of stuff that's about to break about Hunter. Hey, could we slow roll that? Just slow roll it. Just tell her and they're literally they're running out the clock on it. They're like, oh, that's old news. That's old news.
Right. Yeah. And they're like, hey, you know me, I'm Joe. You know me, we're buddies. We have lunch, you know. Remember that million, remember that couple 100,000? Remember that time that you needed that renovation at your beach house and I took care of it, kind of thing, you know? And I'm also looking at, you've got the Loftus podcast, Biden bribes and Vegas vibes. Can we not talk about that one, or can we talk about that one?
I was doing stand up at the MGM in Vegas, so I had recorded the podcast from there, and that's when the IRS whistleblower was first coming forward that like $10 million came in through China, and it's crazy. Like, the Biden family has no business. They don't have a business. Right. They're not like selling anything else other than access. And like Ashley Biden was getting a piece of the action. Jim Biden was getting, like, every Biden has a shell corporation, has this LLC that was all getting money. And then, there was one name that wasn't on there. And that was Joe. Yeah. But there was another crazy LLC. I'm sure it's totally not connected.
You mean the one Big Guy LLC?
Right. Yeah. Big Guy LLC.
Hit up the Big Guy LLC.
Yes. So it's wild to watch. And I think the only solution is, first of all, make fun of the idiots that are doing it and try to get more people to ask these questions and get more people to get curious. And that's why I love doing, on the Loftus Party YouTube channel. It's all with humor.
Exactly.
It's all with humor. And with that show tonight, it's all with humor, because I really want I want liberals I want curious people. I
Mhm.
want independents to go, wow, that guy
Right.
makes a good point. That's funny, but it's a good point. What is up with that? And that's when you win. As soon as you can inject a little bit of logic into this emotional battle that we're in, because it's all emotional. It's all emotional. Everybody on the left and the independents are like, well, at least the Democrats are trying.
Right.
At least they're
At least they're
trying
trying
something.
something, you
Yes.
know. At least,
Yeah.
at least they're trying to hide their bribes. I mean,
Yeah.
if their bribes were in our face, then we wouldn't like it. But because they're able to try to hide their bribing and their scheming, it's okay. But
Well, yeah, you look at like a social program and you're like, look how much wasteful spending is doing, we're wasting all this money. We could actually be doing so much more good with that money if we did something. And they're like, at least they're
at
trying.
least we have to do something.
It's like they're building these like single room tiny houses in Los Angeles for homeless people. And so they've contracted it out. And the contractor was like, I can build you one of those things for $100,000 a unit. And then California's like, all right, go for it. And the guy goes, you know what? I got the contract. I know I said 100, but it's really going to be more like 250,000. And they're like, well, okay, he's trying to help.
Yeah,
And then they go out there the first day with a hammer and they're like, you know what? It's going to be more like 750,000.
yeah. And they're still going to get a 5-gallon bucket outside for bathroom purposes.
Yes, and it's just California is a great example of everything you don't want to do, you don't want to be. They're spending so much money on trying to solve the homeless crisis that it's an industry in and of itself.
It's
And then if you try to slow it down, they're like, well, at least they're trying. At least they're trying. Like, oh my God. It's like a snake eating its own tail.
And it's just like the welfare system. They're not actually ending homelessness, much like they're not ending the welfare system. They're just exacerbating the problem, and therefore creating a bridge that creates a more dependency
Yes.
for a longer period of time on the government. Because when the government creates dependency, they have to increase the size of their bureaucracy, and that
Yes.
means spending, which means that they can put more of their family tree in office. But see, Michael,
Right.
this is one of the reasons I brought you on today, because you're hitting the nail on the head. Like I do all kinds of serious shows, but I think that comedy is one of those common grounds that we all can unite on, because I myself will watch a liberal talk show for a few minutes and they'll make some jokes about Donald Trump, or they'll make some jokes about some conservative people, and I'll laugh because the clever way of them making a joke about it. I guess I got to admit, sometimes even though I might not like who they're poking fun at, I can go, that's funny, and
Yeah.
I can respect that. But and sometimes, like the talking to the trans person yesterday, when you reach it, I know I always come back. I'm like a golden retriever. You can throw the ball and I'm gonna chase it, but I'm coming back. I'm coming back. Yell squirrel, I'm gonna go away, but I'm coming back. I won't have the squirrel, but I'll come back. But my reason for saying that is, it's like when you find something that you can kind of talk about, you can pick up on things that either put another arrow in your own quiver, or it gives you an understanding on how to fight the battle, or maybe convince them in another way that there's actually other facts out there. There's other things that we're going to need to talk about to save our country and protect freedom. See, I'm coming back. You see that? So, because that's ultimately and I believe that comedy is not only freedom, but comedy is a common ground that I think protects freedom, which is yet another reason I brought you on, because I believe that what you're doing as a comedian and what you're doing with your platform is you are protecting freedom, and not just the First Amendment, which you mentioned in the beginning, but you're protecting not only a freedom of thought, because a lot of us don't realize how indoctrinated, we realize, but many people don't realize how indoctrinated they're being, through the narratives and the ideologies.
Yeah.
But when you can take something and make fun out of, shine a light on it and make fun of it and make it funny, you're also saving critical thinking, because we live in a country where they're taking critical thinking out of being taught in schools and colleges. And comedy is just that. It's like critical thinking. It's lightening up something, shining a light on it, but it's making people think. They go, that was funny, but why was it funny? Oh, it's funny because, there really is cocaine in the White House and Hunter Biden really was naked.
Or it's Al Gore telling you all, the world is going to end.
Yeah.
The polar caps are going to melt and the oceans are going to flood. And that's why I bought a beach house. I knew this would happen, so I got a 30-year fixed mortgage. I'm going to wait till the ocean floods up to the first step, and then I'm going to put it on the market. It's like Al Gore, Obama, all these people who are like, the oceans are going to rise. They all have beach houses, right? And let me know.
Martha's Vineyard. That's right. Martha's Vineyard.
Yes, that would be a beach house.
But nobody, and here's something that I joked about, and I'm not going to keep you a whole lot longer, although I could talk to you all night long. I will wrap up here shortly because I know you probably got better things to do than hang out with William Wallace.
Although, I have a live stream I have to do. I have my fans that I have.
Absolutely. What time is your live stream?
8:30, my friend. There's a little bit of preparation that goes on.
You don't have to look any better than what you already are. But I will tell you this, though. If I had my kilt on and my face painted blue like the other William Wallace, you'd probably want to hang out with me a lot longer.
Or
not. I could have worn that to the Capitol yesterday and fit in just fine.
Yes.
So, but also, it's like, talking about comedy again, I made fun of, the oceans rising like we are now, about how all these liberals that are talking about oceans rising and global warming, when you really investigate, because one day I went, well, how high are the tides rising? Because I was laughing about it one day with somebody. And when I looked it up, do you know that there's actually oceans and seas that are disappearing on other parts of the world?
Yes.
There's a whole nother thing going on called the tectonic shifts of the plates, and it's causing the water to shift to other places. Yes. So while we have global warming on the level of water rising, they got it with the water lowering. They're being taxed to raise the water. We're being taxed to lower the water.
Yeah, it's funny, but they'll teach you in school that there used to be Pangea, and it was one giant continent. But slowly and surely it all ripped apart, and that's the continent. And they act like it's done.
Yeah.
Like, then that process mysteriously.
Oh, yeah, it's over.
No, it's still going on.
Exactly.
And there's a huge rift in Africa right now. They think there's going to be a new huge inland sea in Africa. They just had a giant earthquake, and so it's like,
this is great.
Like, the climate is changing. Yeah, it probably will.
Well, and what's going to fill it up? All the water that was going to make them tax us more over here.
Yes, that's the solution. If we can only pay more taxes here, that will stop the earth. Like, listen, you guys, I know you love your gas stoves, but we have to get rid of those to save the planet.
Exactly. Well, now, are you one more thing about, and we'll wrap up here. Are you in New York?
I am not in New York currently, but I will be in New York tomorrow. I'm going to be on the Greg Gutfeld Friday night.
Nice. Awesome.
Greg Gutfeld show.
I love Greg Gutfeld. Did I give you one of my gold coins?
You did.
You give him one of my gold coin. Give him my gold coin. I'll give you another.
I'm supposed to give him the gold coin that you gave me.
Oh,
that's what you're saying?
You caught on to that. I'm just joking.
So I'm just the middleman. This isn't about me. Shame on you, William Wallace.
I'm just kidding with you.
Yeah.
No, but I actually, like I said, and I want to go to America's First Warehouse when you're there one time.
Yes.
Because that's about you, by the way, my friend.
Yeah, we got it. Well, our next show, it looks like, is going to be August 18th. We got some big news coming. I wish I could break the news right here on the William Wallace for America program, but I can't. But just listen, subscribe to that show tonight. There's a freight train of wonderful coming, and it's just what America needs.
All right, Michael. Well, I'm going to be promoting you because I love your work. I think more people need to see your work. That this video becomes a podcast. So so this will be on my podcast. It's gonna be on my YouTube channel. It's gonna be on my Rumble channel, and I'll be promoting this video for weeks and months to come because I love not only your work, but I think more people need to learn more about you and your great work because I think that you're going to be somebody who's protecting freedom via comedy and doing it in such a way that you're protecting future generations.
I thank you, man. I thank you. And I'm trying to, it's why I started the Loftus Party and the loftusparty.com in the first place. I want a bigger tent. I want more people.
Mhm.
Everybody wants the best for them and their family. Everybody wants to be free. So I want more people in the tent, more
I
people in
love
the
it.
tent. Let's have some fun and life, liberty, and the pursuit of some serious happiness.
I absolutely love it. Well, Michael, I'm going to end the broadcast and then I'm going to talk to you off camera for just a minute. I want to thank you very much for joining me, and I want to thank everybody else for watching the show today. And we're going to have this show on all my platforms. Please catch it later, promote it, because Michael Loftus is somebody that you're going to want to keep up with in the future. Thank you all so much and have a great day.